Hey Sparkly Beans! Today I have for you a little review of the Imperfect Inspirations series of planning tools that are particularly designed for folks with ADHD. So I'm going to show you a few examples of the ones that I purchased and tell you a little bit about what is available from this company. I did buy this myself. This is not a review that I got copies for or anything. But I wanted to just show you from my experience what I think of these. I did a review recently of Danny Donovan's anti-planner, which I'll try to remember to leave a thing in the description above, or the card above rather. And it was one of the more popular videos that I've done recently, so I figured y'all might be interested in another little ADHD specific planning review. If you're new, hi, my name is Avery and I help justice-aligned, neurodivergent, and nerdy humans to cultivate ease and self-trust for growing into our emerging future. And I'm a neurodivergent person myself. I have autism as well as ADHD. And I have tried many different planning tools and ways of planning myself. I actually have a self-paced audio course that is available for purchase if you're interested. It's called Unproductive, and I really go into kind of how you can plan your life while also being a little more skeptical about some of the expectations of productivity culture and how you can heal a little bit from expectation and find your own ways of doing things according to your own neurotype. So if you're interested in that, I will leave a link below to the Unproductive course. But I had mentioned in the review of Danny Donovan's planner that I thought it actually went along really well with the way that I talk about planning and talk about managing your life sort of in that course. And I think the same is true for these Imperfect Inspirations tools. So I came across this company actually when I was looking for some different options for a client. Like I said, I work with neurodivergent folks, and I had an ADHD client who was interested in getting a new planner. And so I was showing her some of the ones I purchased before, but I was curious about what might be new on the market. And I actually ended up so interested in this company that I grabbed a couple of their different tools, specifically these laminate sheets for myself. Imperfect Inspirations is a company. It's a small business, just like mine. It's a small business run by somebody with ADHD, so I like to support each other. And I had not come across them at all other than just having Googled for ADHD planners, but they have quite a range of interesting tools available. So if you haven't checked out their website, I definitely would take a look. The ones that I'm going to show you today, they are still available. The only thing about the Imperfect Inspirations website is it is a little bit confusing maybe to find exactly what you're looking for, because they have a lot of different tools. So they do planners, they do, different kinds of like one-off things, like they have stickers, they have, I'm trying to even remember, just all sorts of different like kind of accessories that you can use. They also have things like ADHD kind of themed greeting cards, and they've clearly like expanded in a bunch of different directions. They even have some magical tools like a shadow journal. Nothing that I was particularly interested in for myself, so I didn't grab those for review. But since I know a lot of the folks who watch this channel are inclined towards things like tarot and astrology and magic, I'll mention that there is some crossover there as well with the company. The ones that I'm going to show you today, you can find if you go to, they've kind of changed things up a little bit, but on the website for Imperfect Inspirations, on the sidebar where they have all the different kinds of things you can buy, if you pick reusable planners, you'll see these listed under reusable, I think it's laminates, and they have the laminates together with other types of like one-off planners. So the nice thing about this company that I actually think is really a plus for neurodivergent folks is that they do have a range of different kinds of planning tools. So you can they have like a disc bound planner. They have a full size and mini different like planners that are disc bound, and then they also have these laminate sheets. They have a notepad style, so just sort of similar to like those little like grocery list kind of like notepads you can just pull off real quick. And then They also offer this kind of thing, but like a magnetic. So if you want to stick something on your fridge, for example, or if you have something metal near your desk, like a filing cabinet, you can use that. I like that because obviously like flexibility is really important for folks with ADHD, and having things the way you want it. Particularly if, like me, you're ADHD, you have autism and ADHD, you might be really particular about how things are. So it's nice to have different options. I was interested in this. I had actually first looked at the notepad sheet, and I liked the idea of it because I didn't really personally need like a full-on planner with a bunch of different like styles of things and, you know, prompts and reflections and intro material. Like I wasn't really looking for that. You know, I've gotten like seduced by them in the past, and I found that I just don't use them. And I was looking for the client I was looking for has the challenge that I think a lot of us can struggle with of not completing material and then kind of feeling guilty, or it doesn't feel good to like open up your planner and there's a bunch of blank space. So something that's nice about these is like even if you get the disc bound or you get the notepad, it doesn't feel like, you know, it's undated, and it doesn't feel like you have to fill everything out. The notepad style one, you know, it's a sheet just like these that I'm going to show you in laminate form, and you can just rip it off. So you might use it one day and then use it 2 weeks later, and that's totally fine. It doesn't really matter. I also just like that because, you know, it's easy to recycle the pages. You don't have like a bunch of old planners sort of sitting around thinking, maybe I'll do something with these, but what will I do with them? You know, if you're like me, I have a whole pile right next to my desk of old ones. And the kind of moment that I found myself in when I decided to consider getting these personally was that I've been doing all of my planning digitally for a while, and I had sort of accepted that I wasn't going to be a planner person, and that I got more excited about like doing the kind of artistic stuff, and then I just wouldn't really use it as a planner, and I would fall off. So I've been doing everything digitally, but what I'd realized, and I think this is really common, and something I see with clients who are neurodivergent in all different ways, is that it can be challenging, I think, when you have, no matter how customized it is, and you know, I have a whole setup in Notion where I have everything really customized for myself. And I think to myself, you know, if I just plan my to-do list system, if I tag everything perfectly, if I have things, you know, that really like align with what's specific to me. We talk in the Unproductive course about things like figuring out your own rhythms and cycles. And so, you know, having things tagged to the point that I could filter a list of to-dos, and I could say, you know, what can I do when I have this amount of energy and this amount of focus? And that was the way that I was going for a long time. What I realized was that there's something about the way my brain operates that even if it's really well filtered, it just feels overwhelming. Sometimes it can feel really nice to like pull something out and just have like, these are the main things that I need to be doing this week that I really care about, and everything else is on the computer. So I would ask myself, like, how do people do like just a to-do list that's next to their desk? Like, I have so many things, but I sort of realized that, you know, for a lot of folks, the kinds of things that I put in my task manager, right, are not necessarily the kinds of things other people would put on an immediate to-do list. So what I've been doing is a hybrid where I'm using my computer still as a place where, you know, if I have blog post ideas, if I have, you know, things that would go in lists, if I have ideas for future workshops that I might be doing, or a one-on-one offer, if I'm, you know, thinking about this YouTube channel and the videos that I might do, all of that is still going into a bigger task manager. Things that I might want to do, you know, weeks and months in the future. But what I'm using the Imperfect Inspirations tools for is more pulling out of that system each week. I give myself a moment to like sit down and say, what are the big things? So that's how I'm using it. I got 3 of these laminate options. So I picked the laminate because I did like the environmental, you know, low impact. I also like that I can wipe this off at any time, or I can leave it up for a while. It doesn't really matter. So this is the weekly version. So you'll see if you go to the Imperfect Inspiration website, there are a lot of different options. So I can only afford a few. So I got the ones that I most thought I would want to try. I actually grabbed a daily and a weekly. I'll show you both of those because I wasn't totally sure which layout I liked better. So if you are somebody who, you know, will like look through bunches of different planners and the layouts, they have a ton of different options. There is like a small business one, there's a mom one, there's a, oh God, I'm trying to remember, like there's all sorts of, there's some cool like ADHD specific tools. So I'm going to show one of those that I did purchase, but there's also other ones, like there's an adult chore chart. So if you find yourself enjoying those kind of like almost like kid-like things, you know, I want to put a chore chart on the fridge, like go wild. They have some pretty cool stuff. But here, this is just kind of basic planning. So this is the weekly version. So again, you can get this in different formats. But I'll just run through what I like about this. The layout in general, you'll see it gives you a lot of white space, which I think is really important. The client I was working with, actually, this was something that she cared about, was being able to, especially if you're ADHD, right, to have some flexibility. It can feel like if there's not like just a spot where you can write down random stuff that comes up, then sometimes you find yourself not using the tool maybe. So I like the balance here. Like it's not a blank page, it's got some guidance, but there's a lot of white space essentially. And there's a lot of flexibility. So this is something that like doesn't seem like, if you look at it, it's like whatever. But I think it actually takes a certain amount of skill. So like props to Imperfect Inspirations for this. I think it takes some skill to design something in a way that there's a lot of flexibility in how you use it. So what you have here is at the top, you'll see if you want to like note what the current like, you know, week this is for. If you'll forget, you can circle the, there's a letter for each month. You can circle what month it is, and then there's numbers, so you could like circle the numbers that make up the week, for example. At the top, there's just a little statement. You can say I am. So if you want to, you know, this kind of cues in a little bit to the more kind of mood or being, you know, cognizant and aware of like how you are in the present moment. So you could write something like, you know, I am tired, I am excited. This would actually like key in pretty well with, if I remember, I'll leave a link. I reviewed something called the Reclaim Journal, where you can process like different emotions and work with emotions. So you could actually use those two together if you wanted to. You know, this is how I am this week, and you could use the Reclaim Journal or another tool to process those emotions. There's a little prompt that says manifest. You can write something that you're manifesting. Again, that brings in that kind of magical element to it if that's something that's meaningful to you. That's not quite how I think of things, so I usually don't use that. This is the habits section. So I like that this starts to get into what I mean about there's some flexibility here. You can write in, you know, any habits you like, and then there's little bubbles for each day. So there's 1, 2, 3, 5 different habits. So if you want to do, you know, like hygiene things, you know, maybe you are trying to do some meditation, any kind of practice you're trying to establish, there's little bubbles that you can fill in. But you could also do this, you could use this section as like a mood tracker or something else, because you could easily, if you have different colors of dry erase, whiteboard markers, or if you have, or sorry, not dry erase, specifically this is wet erase, FYI, this is wet erase, laminate. You could also do, you know, if you get the notepad version, you could just use colored pens to fill in, you know, color coded. So something like how your mood is, how your energy is, it would be actually really easy to use this for that. Then you have this section that says reflect, pluses and minuses. So again, this is like, it's not prompting you specifically. So I, for example, wrote down that I want to be lying down less. So I'm using this. By the way, there's nothing wrong with lying down. I have a specific sleep condition that I need to stay upright. So lie down, it's great. It's just I can't. So I'm using this as more like things I'd like to do more and things I'd like to do less. So this would be the section that in a planner you might see, you know, at the end of the week, where there's kind of like a reflect section. So you could use this for things I want to do more and less. You could also use this for like things that went well this week, things that didn't go well this week. It could be like an end of week reflection. It could be, yeah, just things you're trying to like increase or decrease. It could be, you could think of positive, like plus and minus in a lot of different ways, right? So you could think of like things that are happening more and things that are happening less in my life. And they could be like value neutral, but just a place to reflect. So whatever the plus and minus means for you, there's space for that. this is clearly designed specifically for ADHD people, top priorities with consequences. So, you know, for a lot of folks, it's useful to know, like, what are the things that, if I don't get them done this week, something will happen, right? I use this as slightly differently, but I do think that that's a really good thing to have for ADHD folks. For me, I'm using it more for like, what are my kind of big rocks for the week? That's another concept I talk about in Unproductive, the idea of kind of big rocks and like what is really, what needs you, and what is like well calibrated to your skills, needs, and interest right now. And so I just put, you know, a couple of, you know, 2 or 3 at the top there for the week. Big boxes, but you could use this for priorities with consequences. You could use this for projects that you're working on, you know, whatever the big kind of 3 are. There's an area here to write down day specific stuff. And then here, there is just a total freeform brain dump space. But also this list space, I think, is very flexible. It's got little tiny stars, so you could use this as like checking things off, but you could also just consider those bullet points. So for me, I like that I like it when things aren't the little square for the ticky box, because my brain is like, you have to ticky box it now. So it could be used as a ticky box, but it doesn't have to be. So I think it's designed so that you can be like, here are my big priorities that have consequences, and here's everything else, like a just regular to-do list. But I've been using it specifically for, these are the like ongoing things that I'm working towards that aren't necessarily going to be done this week, but when I have time in between my big priorities, these are the kinds of things I want to be working on. So that's how I've been using it. But you could easily use this for all different sorts of things, you know, people you want to get in touch with this week, steps in the bigger things above here, anything that's a bullet list, and then you have a little like space there. So that's the weekly. I've found this to be the most useful. I have not actually been using the daily, and I haven't even been using the weekly as a weekly. It's like sometimes it might last a few days, sometimes it might be a few weeks, but it's whatever, you know, those priorities last for, really, for me. This is the daily. I believe this is the spicy daily now. They've changed some of the names of things, but so you'll see the word fuck is on this a lot. If you like that kind of motivation, then there you go. I found that this one is a little too much for me. There's a little too much space for like lots of things to do, and I would never get this much done in a day. That said, if you're fairly busy, if you have a lot of things on your list, this could be really useful. I could see using this for work. I could also see using this as a weekly. So actually the nice thing about this is there's only like 1 or 2 things that are really specific to it being a day. You could totally use this for a week. And that's what I was thinking when I bought this, is like, maybe I'm not totally sure which layout I like more, and I might actually use this for the week. So this one's a little more structured. You'll see it's got this time it's I am something AF. Of course I love that because my queer magical AF sort of brand. Same thing at the top where you can say the month, day, and then date. So at the top we have goals. We've got big shit and today shit. So this is kind of nice that you can put in, and with the laminate, it's easy to just not erase. You know, this might be something you're working on for a few weeks, a general theme, something you're going towards, and then here's today's one big goal up at the top. There's a spoons area, fucks to give is how it's labeled. I love this, you know, reminding yourself like, hey, if you're at 2 spoons, it's okay, you don't have to do as much. And again, I don't always love the like yelling at you language, but this is do not be fucking late. So this is where you would put your timed stuff. So there's not a ton of space if you have a day that's like really full. They also have a time blocking planner that might be more your speed. If you're somebody who doesn't have like a ton of timed daily things you have to do, though, this is probably enough space. It certainly would be enough for me. You could write times, but you could also just write like, these are the things I have to get done today. So this is like top priority done today. Similarly, don't fuck these up. So again, you get the 3. So this would be your kind of priorities with consequences zone. And then in here, and this is where I'm like, I would never have this much for a day, but maybe some people will. You have do, plan, and ugh. I like that. So it's, you know, things to do, things to plan, and then ugh, you could use ugh for like, you know, these are things I really need to get done. I don't really feel like it, but I need to do them. You could also use them as like, don't do these things, or these things are getting in the way. So since there's not like a reflect zone of the plus and minuses, like this could be your do less of kind of space if you wanted it to be. And then you'll see these have little, they're kind of hard to see, the gray boxes, but there's a icon of a shopping cart. So this could be, you know, your shopping list. This is like a tool icon, so that might be like chores or things to get done, or maybe things to fix, whatever that would mean for you. And then there's a person, so like this would be maybe people to contact, some sort of social zone. So again, it's a little more structured, but it's still vague enough that I think you could make it work for you. Don't fucking forget box. It's one thing I don't love about this layout is that there's just a lot of different spaces to put stuff. So it's like, you know, don't forget this, big shit here, don't be late. It's like a lot of different, kind of the same idea. But I think you could definitely tweak this to work for you, and use each of these zones for different things. The nice thing too about the laminate is theoretically, I haven't tested it, but I think you could get custom stickers if they were like vinyl or something similar to this. You could actually put a sticker over top of some of the words if you wanted to have a permanent section. So it's a nice thing compared to like a flip through journal where you're always having to cross out and say, this is my section for this, and like write it out. You could put, if you had a sticker that would tolerate water, you could do that. And then even when you wipe things off, it wouldn't come off. So that might be an option if you had the right sticker. Finally, brain dump space again, nice big brain dump space. And then there is a little section that's called good shit. And it's got little icons. So if you are tracking habits, this would be the space to do, because it's a daily, it's just a yes or no. But again, I can see using this for the week, and you just have to like customize things a little bit. But that's the spicy daily. There's a non-spicy daily, which I think is pretty much the same. It just doesn't have the word fuck everywhere. I like the word fuck. And then finally, I'm just going to show you the third one I got. So like I said, there's a bunch of different tools. This just happens to be one I went for. It was the Roll for Initiative Planner. So this is actually an exercise that was in the Danny Donovan book as well. It's a really common one. I love suggesting this to clients. I think it works really well if you have ADHD and you kind of have this challenge where there's like a theme or like a kinds of stuff to do, but you can never like decide on which. Or maybe what I find my brain often doing is it will look at all the options and it'll start evaluating them, and it'll tell me why I don't want to do each of them. And so having like a dice, like literally just roll a die, can be really useful. Even if it's something that's fun, I find myself being like, I don't know which one I want to do. So this is really good for like that kind of themed thing, because you can basically be like, okay, list one maybe is like the hard shit that I need to do today. You know, list two is like people I want to like contact people, and here's a list of the people that I most frequently want to like stay in touch with and text or whatever. And maybe it's, you know, chores, and then it's like fun things to do, or it's self-care. This can be great too for like a rescue list of like things to do when I'm sad, things to do when I'm feeling, you know, angry, things to do when I'm feeling, you know, different emotions. So it's real simple. It's just a 1 through 6. You just list out what are the options, and then you just roll a die, and that's all. So that's pretty self-explanatory, but it's just a nice little like laminate sheet so you can keep your options in front of you. So overall, like I think these are really good for folks with ADHD. I particularly just love that they are laminate sheets. I'm sure they're not the only people who've done this, but I haven't seen it very often, and I think that it can be really useful for, you know, folks who do want to have some sort of like paper planning, but don't want to have a book lying around, and also don't want to have that shame when you flip through it and you have something blank. But you know, you can get them again disc bound. You can get them in like the tear off style, and they do have planners that include like a number of different. So they have kind of ADHD starter kit type planners that have a bunch of their different things in one planner. So if you're ready to go all in, you can do that. But I just liked that, you know, I could grab one, I could play with it, I could try to do it. The laminates were, when I bought them, were $16 each. So it's not cheap, but it was cheap enough that I felt like, you know, I'll just like get this and have it around. And I think it was the same cost for the tarot. So I just thought, well, this is permanent forever, so might as well just get the laminate sheet. But obviously up to you. So that's the Imperfect Inspiration planners. If there are other ADHD tools that you'd like me to review, let me know. I have a fairly limited budget, but I do also, if you have a tool that you're promoting, you know, you can see I have contact info below. I'm happy to review things, to take review copies, to show things that I couldn't necessarily afford to grab for myself. But I'm also interested always to hear from folks who are interested in this kind of topics around like ADHD, autism, and planning. If there's particular things that you struggle with, topics that you'd like me to cover, I can do videos on those as well. And I love to do things that are actually like relevant to what you're interested in. So if there's something you're struggling with, challenge you have that you'd like a video on, leave a comment below. You'll see the link in the description to Unproductive. So if you would like to check that out, like I said, it's a self-paced audio course. You get quite a lot of content for the price. And it weaves together, uses tarot archetypes to teach. There's a little astrology bonus section. So there is some sort of like spiritual stuff that's blended in with the more practical. And I think it especially will speak to neurodivergent brains who are just looking for a little more like gentleness and support around time and energy and planning. But also still have things that you want to get done, and you're, you know, interested in different tools to do that. It's very practical and applicable to your day-to-day. And so you get a full length workbook that has a lot of exercises that you can really use throughout your life forever. So I would love for you to check that out and let me know if you have any questions, and we'll see you in the next video.